Good morning to all of you. Today we discuss about the anticoagulants drug. Previously we learned about the antiplatelet drugs which are useful in the arterial thrombosis. Today we discuss about various anticoagulants like the heparin, lower molecular weight heparin, which are useful in the venous thromboembolism. Okay, so this venous thromboembolism, it is different from the arteries. It is mainly due to the fibrin. Okay, so there is a red in color, and drug which are useful, it is a heparin and low molecular weight heparin. So let's start. Okay, so we already learned this coagulation pathway in physiology already, and also you learn in the pathology. Okay, so there is a one which is more, okay, it is a extrinsic pathway and intrinsic pathway. Okay, there is a extrinsic pathway and intrinsic pathway. So this extrinsic pathway and intrinsic pathway ultimately both combine at activated factor 10A. Okay, it is the activated factor. Okay, so there is a factor 10 to factor 10A is a activated factor 10A, which is acting on the thrombin. So ultimately most of the drug which we are used in the anticoagulant, it is eitherly acting on this factor 10A or thrombin. Okay, and some other drugs which is the vitamin K dependent. Okay, like the warfarin 2, 7, 9 and 10, factor 2, 7, 9 and 10. And most commonly we are listen about this factor 10A and thrombin inhibitors. Okay, so these two, it is a more important for us. Okay, why this it's called the extrinsic pathway? Because of the some factors which is obtained from the outer side. Okay, so it is not present in the blood, so it is called the extrinsic pathway. Okay, and this extrinsic pathway, it is a okay, so it is about the various it is a necessary this extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. There is a prolongation of the prothrombin time and activated partial thromboplastin time. Okay, in this intrinsic pathway there is an increase in the APTT. Increase in the intrinsic pathway there is a APTT, activated partial thromboplastin time, and in extrinsic pathway there is a prothrombin time. Try to remember this thing. Okay, so ultimately there is a conversion of the fibrinogen to the fibrin, and ultimately there is a fibrin polymer. At last factor, it is a factor 13A, and the first factor which is the tissue, during the tissue damage there is a tissue thromboplastin. Okay, so last factor which is involved is the factor 13A, and in extrinsic pathway there is the tissue thromboplastin. So it is a coagulation pathway. Try to remember there is a intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. If there is some we modified this extrinsic pathway, then there is a increase in the prothrombin time. If there is a intrinsic pathway, there is a chances in the intrinsic pathway, then there is a activated partial thromboplastin time. Okay, if we some modify here the common pathway, then there is a elevation of the both. There is a prothrombin time elevation also, and activated partial thromboplastin time also increase. Okay, so try to remember this thing. Then let's, before discuss the anticoagulant, we discuss about the anticoagulant, we discuss about the coagulants. Okay, the systemic coagulants, it is a vitamin K. Okay, here we discuss about the only the main, it is about the vitamin K and some other antifibrinolytic agent which in next video. Okay, so coagulant as a vitamin K 1, 2, 3, anti-hemophilic factor like the factor 8, 9 and other factors. Okay, fresh blood also, it's a coagulant. Desmopressin, conjugated estrogen we discuss about in the endo part. Okay, and some other drugs like the ethamsilate, rutin, carboprost, adrenochrome, monosemi, carbazone. These are the coagulant, but in this particular video we discuss about the vitamin K in details. Okay, other local factors which are the clotting factor, absorbable material like the gelatin form with fibrin, okay, and thromboplastin, and also the local vasoconstrictor like the adrenaline. So let's see the vitamin K. Okay, so normal clotting depends on the adequate vitamin K which is required for the synthesis of the various factors. Which are the factors? Okay, which are the factors? Is the factor 2, 7, 9 and 10. Factor 2, 7, 9 and 10, it is the responsible, there is a synthesis for this factor. Activation of this factor requires this vitamin K, and also the anti-clotting protein like the protein C and protein S. So vitamin K dependent factor, if in asked in the MCQ, then answer is a 2, 7, 9, 10, and also the anti-clotting factor is the protein C and S. Try to remember this thing. Okay. Okay, so the gamma carboxylation of this clotting factor is essential for the activation of this factor by the calcium and phospholipids. Okay, so and ultimately this carboxylase enzyme requires the vitamin K in reduced form. So this vitamin K is necessary. Vitamin K in reduced form, it is necessary for the activation of the factor this 2, 7, 9 and 10. Okay, and for this activation of this 2, 7, 9, 10, there is a gamma carboxylation occur. For this, we want to vitamin K in reduced form. So if there is a no vitamin, there is a no gamma carboxylation of the factor 2, 7, 9 and 10, and ultimately there is a no activation. Okay, let's see the vitamin K. It is a phytonutrient. It is obtained from the plant. It is a fat soluble bile salt needed for this absorption of the vitamin K. If we give orally also an intravenously, rapid onset and prolonged effect. Vitamin K2 is the menaquinone, and it is synthesized in our intestinal bacteria. Okay, so if there is a prolonged antibiotic therapy, particularly the broad spectrum antibiotic, then there is a chance of the vitamin K2 deficiency. Okay, vitamin K3 is the menadione, and it is a synthetic analog. It is a water soluble bile salt. It is not needed, which is needed in the vitamin K1. Okay, so if there is a deficiency of the bile salts, then we give this vitamin K3. Okay, absorption is the very slowest and longer acting. So particularly these uses of the vitamin K, it is useful in the overdose of the oral anticoagulant, and also if drug induced bleeding, it is due to the some antibiotic also. Okay, so it is useful in the drug induced bleeding also. In this, we are using the vitamin K1 10 milligram intramuscular, followed by the 5 milligram every 6 hourly. It is also uses in the hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. Okay, for prevention of the hemorrhagic disease of the newborn, we give the vitamin K1 5 to 10 milligram intramuscular to the mother. Okay, and in neonate, vitamin K1 1 milligram intramuscular single dose at birth. This given in the neonate. Previous one, it is given into the mother. It is if also there is a deficiency of the vitamin K in due to the sub enzyme inducer like drug mother using, then we give also vitamin K in the prophylactic agent during the pregnancy. During the pregnancy, there is a 34 week and at the 36 week, we use the vitamin K1. We use the vitamin K1 10 milligram. Okay, 10 milligram IM. Okay, so there is a vitamin K1 10 milligram IM. If the patient using the anti-epileptic drug like the carbamazepine, and there is a chance of the more vitamin K deficiency. So we are using this vitamin K1 10 milligram intramuscularly at 34 weeks and 36 weeks of the pregnancy. It is also useful in the hypoprothrombinemia. Vitamin K3 is preferred because of if there is a due to the biliary obstruction and obstructive jaundice. So there is no bile salt. There is no absorption of the vitamin K1. So we are using the vitamin K3 in this condition. Okay. Also it is useful in the patient on the total parenteral nutrition. So there is a deficiency of the vitamin K. So we are adding the vitamin K in total parenteral nutrition. We use the vitamin K1 also and vitamin K3 also. Also in the inadequate utilization in the particularly like the hepatic disease. So we are giving the vitamin K in this type of the condition. Okay, then anti-hemophilic factors, some other coagulants which are we are not going into detail, but try to remember anti-hemophilic factor like the factor 8 in the hemophilia A and factor 9 in the hemophilia B. Okay, desmopressin we already learned in vasopressin and other drug. Okay, so this desmopressin, it is a synthetic analog of the vasopressin. Okay, so why it is here, because it retains the factor 8 and 1 milligram factor. Okay, and increase the activity. And this desmopressin, it is a lack of the vasoconstrictor activity of the vasopressin. So it is useful as a by the intranasal route. Okay, by the intranasal route or parenteral, but not orally. This intranasal route is this desmopressin used as a coagulant factor. Okay, and main advantage of this is no hepatitis or HIV transmission, which may occur with the blood derived products. Okay, so this, try to remember desmopressin as a coagulant. Okay, then local hemostatic we achieve with the fibrin, gelatin form and oxidized cellulose. Okay, so these are the useful in the some dental condition. We left this fibrin and gelatin form at the for the 1 to 4 week, and there is no foreign body reaction. It is easily absorbed. Other materials like the coagulant, like the in the thrombin, also the adrenaline, which is acting as a vasoconstrictor agent, so it is useful in the some bleeding condition like the epistaxis and bleeding teeth. Okay, some astringent like the tannic acid and other metallic salts, it also useful. Rutin 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 is a 60 milligram TDS. It is useful in the vitamin C deficiency. Ethamsialate, it is very much useful in the menorrhagia, 250 milligram 3 times in a day. It is inhibit the prostacyclin synthesis and promote the platelet aggregation. This ethamsialate is also the useful. Try to remember this drug. It is the ethamsialate. It is a 2 to 350 milligram 3 times in a day. Okay, also the adrenochrome monosemic carbazole. Let's discuss with the anticoagulant which are used in vivo. Okay, anticoagulant. First, there is an anticoagulant. We discuss about the anticoagulant which is used in the vivo and in vitro also. Okay, so this anticoagulant used in vivo, parenteral anticoagulant. Parenteral anticoagulant की बात करें, then there is an indirect thrombin inhibitor. Okay, there is a two type. One is the direct thrombin inhibitor and second one is the indirect thrombin inhibitor. This indirect thrombin inhibitor includes the heparin and heparin-like substance is the anchor, and second one there is a low molecular weight heparin. Okay, this is the unfractionated heparin. Okay, unfractionated heparin and low molecular weight heparin. Try to remember this name, low molecular weight heparin. Nowadays in COVID it is also the given in for anticoagulant purpose. Okay, so try to remember name in low molecular weight heparin. It is a one type of heparin. So there is a pairin. Okay, suffix is the pairin, enoxaparin, dalteparin, nadraparin. Okay, enoxaparin, dalteparin, nadraparin, raviparin, palmparin, ardaparin and tinzaparin. Okay, there is a suffix is the PARIN. Okay, then the fondaparinux, idraparinux and danaparin is the other indirect thrombin inhibitor. Then direct thrombin inhibitor and particularly the parenteral, it is the lepirudin, bivalirudin, argatroban, danaparin and drotadokin alpha. Okay, so these are the direct thrombin inhibitor. Okay, then oral anticoagulant. These are the previous one is the parenteral, and now the oral anticoagulant. There is the coumarin derivatives is the warfarin, acinocoumaril, dicoumaril, ethyl biscomyl acetate. Okay, So these are the coumarin derivatives, and particularly in this, it is we more discuss about the warfarin. Okay, we more discuss about the warfarin. Then Indian derivatives is the phenydione, but it is not a useful nowadays. It is not a useful nowadays because of the allergy. Okay, there is an anaphylactory reaction, so there is a no use this drug. Then the more useful drug nowadays is a factor 10A inhibitor, rivaroxaban, apixaban, and edoxaban. Okay, in COVID it is use this rivaroxaban because it's a orally acting drug. Okay. Orally and factor 10A inhibitor, it is the anticoagulant. Okay, other drug is a direct thrombin inhibitor and orally acting, it is a dabigatran, etaxylate. Dabigatran, etaxylate is a prodrug. It's a prodrug. Try to remember this thing. Also, let's see the various anticoagulant which are useful in the in vitro. Okay, so this heparin are also useful as an anticoagulant in vitro also, and some other agent which is made the complex with the calcium, it is used like the sodium citrate. Okay, this sodium citrate, sodium oxalate, and sodium edetate. Okay, sodium citrate, sodium oxalate, sodium edetate, these are the substance which are useful in the particularly in the blood bank, and if you see in the blood collection. Okay, some editable. Okay, so these are the substance which are most in the blood bank or in patholab or in the biochemistry lab. Okay, so most important it is about the anticoagulant, and it is a heparin. Heparin is a parenteral, it is an indirect thrombin inhibitor. Okay, if we go to the history, then it is ultimately it is a MacLean, it is a one medical student which isolated the some substance from the liver, and it is acting as an anticoagulant, and then it is obtained from the liver. So there is a name coined term, it is a heparin. Howell and Holt coined the term heparin. Okay, so this heparin it also secrete from the mast cell also. Okay, so richest source of the lung, liver, and intestinal mucosa. Okay, nowadays it is obtained from the ox lung and pig intestinal mucosa, commercially produce this heparin. Okay, so heparin is obtained from the liver. Let's see the figure of the how to this heparin or low molecular weight heparin and various other drugs acting. Okay, the mechanism of action. So this anticoagulant class heparin, unfractionated heparin. Okay, this unfractionated heparin, it is binding with this antithrombin 3. Okay, antithrombin 3. Okay, this is the antithrombin 3. Okay, this is the heparin and thrombin. Okay, so this heparin, it is a scaffolding in the nature with this antithrombin 3 thrombin, and it is inhibited. So it inactivate the thrombin, and it is a large molecular weight. It also binding with this antithrombin 3, and it also inhibit the factor 10A. Okay, so this unfractionated heparin, okay, it is binding with this antithrombin 3. This complex, it inhibit the factor 10A and thrombin also. So it inhibit both thrombin and factor 10A, activated factor 10. Okay, let's see here the discuss about the low molecular weight heparin also. Okay, so both in one figure. So we also discuss the low molecular weight heparin. So this low molecular weight heparin, it's about the 15 saccharides. यहाँ पे कितने थे 45. Okay, molecular weight heparin, it is a 30,500, and here the molecular weight is a low, so it's called the low molecular weight heparin. Okay, this low molecular weight heparin, it is binding with this antithrombin, but there is a no scaffolding which is seen here, seen here. It is not binding with this thrombin. and so there is a no inactivation of this thrombin. It is binding with this antithrombin 3 and it inhibits this factor 10A only, not a thrombin, or in a very low it's inhibit the thrombin, but main effect is due to the factor 10A. Okay, so action of the anticoagulant, it's clear about the its binding with this antithrombin 3 and ultimately main is the thrombin and factor 10A, but it also inhibit the various factor 10, 2, 9, 11, 12 and 13. Okay, low concentration of the heparin, it only inhibit the factor 10A. Okay, so main anticoagulant effect, it is due to the inhibition of the factor 10A and this thrombin. So if we give in the lower concentration, heparin prolong the activated partial thromboplastin time without significant effect of the prolonged prothrombin time. But if we are given in the higher dose, then it inhibit the it increase the both prolong the both timing, like the activated partial thromboplastin timing and prothrombin timing. It is also having the two another action. One is the antiplatelet and second one is the lipemia clearing. So heparin, if we are giving in the higher dose, then it also inhibit the platelet aggregation and it also prolong the bleeding time. Okay, so heparin, it is the prolong the prothrombin time, activated partial thromboplastin time, and if we give higher dose, then it also the prolong the bleeding time due to the antiplatelet action. Okay, so try to remember these things. And also the one action, it is a lipemia clearing. Also the one action is the lipemia clearing. If we given the injection of the heparin, then it is a release the lipoprotein lipase from the vessel wall. Okay, so it is a lipemia clearing action also, but at this it is very lower dose and there is a anticoagulant action is not seen. So if we have for the anticoagulant action, then there is a maybe this action is not seen with us. And this heparin, try to remember, it is the antithrombin 3 के साथ bind होगा. Okay, and ultimately it inhibit the thrombin. Okay, thrombin and factor 10A, ये दोनों को inhibit करेगा. Okay, so it is the parenteral anticoagulant and it is the indirectly acting thrombin inhibitor. So it is indirectly thrombin inhibitor, and it's indirect. Why? Because it's binding first with the antithrombin 3, then inhibit the thrombin. Okay. Okay, so let's see the pharmacokinetics. So heparin, it is a large molecular weight. Okay, so it is not absorbed orally. So we are using this drug either by the IV route or subcutaneous route and intramuscular, but this intramuscular route having the hematoma formation more. So we are not using IM also and oral also. So we are using only by the two route. One is the intravenous route. Okay, so we are using by the intravenous route and subcutaneous route. And this intravenous route, if we are using, then instant action. Subcutaneous route, it is the action after the development occur after 60 minutes. Heparin also does not cross the blood-brain barrier and placenta. So if we are giving this heparin, okay, then there is a in pregnancy, like if we are using the warfarin, then there is a various syndrome. Okay, there is a teratogenic effect of the warfarin, but heparin does not cross the blood-brain barrier and placenta also. Okay, so there is a non-teratogenic effect. So this drug heparin, it is useful in the pregnancy, if there is a complicated pregnancy and there is a thrombolic event. Okay, it is metabolized in the liver by the heparinase. Okay, and it is excreted in the urine. If we talk about the various adverse effect, then it is the bleeding. First one, most of the each and every the anticoagulant, there is a chances of the bleeding. So due to the overdose, if we are given this heparin overdose, then there is a chance of the bleeding, and first sign of this bleeding is by the hematuria. Okay, so if there is a patient on the heparin and there is a hematuria, then it is a danger sign. Okay, so there is a chances of the more bleeding if we are not reducing the dose of the heparin. So always see for the hematuria. Okay, then heparin induced thrombocytopenia. Okay, second one, it is a heparin induced thrombocytopenia, and it is heparin induced thrombocytopenia type 1 and type 2. Okay, this type 1, it is a this type 1, it is a not required the treatment. Okay, which is occur in the 24 to 36 hour. Okay, it is occur in the 24 to 36 hour, and it is called transient occur. Okay, so in this it's not required the discontinuation or the treatment, but if there is a type 2 occur in the delay onset, then it requires the discontinuation. Okay, and we use the some other alternatively. Okay, other alternative like the lepidolin, argatroban and danaperonide. Okay, so we are not also prefer if there is a heparin induced thrombocytopenia. Okay, type 1 and type 2. Okay, type 1 में कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है, but if there is a type 2, we also not give the low molecular weight heparin. Why? Because there is a cross sensitivity. So we are not using the low molecular weight heparin. We are using the other drug like the lepidolin, argatroban and danaperoids. Okay, these are the drugs which are useful. So there is a ADR like the alopecia, osteoporosis and hypersensitivity reaction, but it is a very rare condition. So try to remember main thing. One, it is a bleeding, and second one, it is a heparin induced thrombocytopenia. So if there is a more bleeding, then we give the heparin antagonist, and it is a protamine sulfate. Okay, protamine sulfate. We see in the later part of this video, it is a protamine sulfate. Then contraindications. Contraindication particularly it is a bleeding disorder, heparin induced thrombocytopenia, or there is a severe hypertension. If we use this heparin, then there is a chance of the hemorrhage also. Okay, there is a stroke, there is a hemorrhage. Okay, cerebral hemorrhage. So we are not using if there is a threatened abortion, if there is a piles, because these are the conditions which increase the chances of the more and more bleeding. Okay, so we are not using. If we are using with the aspirin or other antiplatelet drug, then it is a cautiously useful of these drugs. Then how to administration of this particularly heparin. Okay, so intravenous bolus dose 5,000 to 10,000 unit we are using, followed by the continuous infusion of the 750 to 1,000 milligram, and this dose is useful in the there is a established pulmonary embolism or deep vein thrombosis. Okay, there is a deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism, and we want to treat the patient, then we are using this intravenous bolus dose 5,000 to 10,000 unit, followed by the 750 to 1,000 unit per hour. So it is the if there is a established of the deep vein thrombosis and the pulmonary embolism, मतलब ये pulmonary embolism and deep vein thrombosis है, then we are using this dose by the intravenous route. Okay, and this need the monitoring. This need the monitoring of the APTT. Okay, activated partial thromboplastin time. Okay, it is we want to increase the 1.5 to 2.5 only. Okay, if it increase more than this 2.5, then there is chances of the more bleeding. So it needs the monitoring of this activated partial thromboplastin time, APTT. Okay, the rate of the infusion is controlled by this APTT. We already discussed. If we are giving the subcutaneous injection, then there is a 10,000 to 20,000 unit every 8 to 12 hours, and when there is a intravenous infusion not given, and particularly for this condition, it is a we need the particular the fine needles, okay, for this condition, because of the we don't want to the hematoma formation, okay. And why we are not using intramuscular? Because more chances of the hematomas. So we are not prefer the IM route, we are preferring the intravenously or the subcutaneous route, okay, IV or subcu. Okay, other therapeutic uses if we talk about, then we already learned in the in CVS, like the acute myocardial infarction and unstable angina. It is useful in the disseminated intravascular coagulation and peripheral arterial occlusion. If there is a peripheral arterial occlusion and it is antiplatelet, it is not available or it is not started, then we first give this anticoagulant like the heparin also, and then for the prophylaxis purpose we are using the antiplatelet drug. But if you want to treat, then there is a peripheral arterial occlusion, there is a it also the heparin we are giving. In acute myocardial infarction and unstable angina we are using, okay, there is a acute pulmonary embolism and deep vein thrombosis. And for the prevention of the deep vein thrombosis, like the patient in the prolonged hospitalization or some hip surgery, okay, then we use this drug heparin for the prevention of the thromboembolism, okay. And for this purpose we are giving the subcutaneous route, particularly the 5000 units every 8 hourly. And in this types when we are using this lower dose 5000 unit subcutaneously, then there is no need of the monitoring of the APTT. Okay, then let's move towards the heparin antagonist. So this heparin antagonist, heparin particularly, if we talk about the heparin, then it is a negatively charged and strongly organic acid, okay. This heparin is a strongly organic acid and strongly negative charge. So we need the strongly basic and positive charge, and it is a protamine sulfate which is obtained from the sperm of the salmon fish. So this protamine sulfate, which is the strongly basic and positive charge, so it neutralizes the strongly acidic and negative charge of the heparin. So it is a binding with this heparin. So 1 milligram of the protamine sulfate, it is a neutralize the 100 unit of the heparin. Okay, but try to remember, in absence of the heparin, if there is a no heparin, patient को heparin नहीं दिया है, and we give the protamine sulfate, then it also having the weak anticoagulant effect by the interacting with the platelet and fibrinogens. Okay, so it is useful when we need to terminate the heparin effect of the heparin rapidly in the condition like the cardiac surgery, okay. So this drug, it is useful. Okay, so we already learned about the heparin. Now we move towards the low molecular weight heparin. It is why it's called the low molecular weight heparin, because the unfractionated heparin, it is a 30,500 molecular weight, and see here it is approximately the 4,000 to 5,000 molecular weight. So it's called the low molecular weight heparin, okay. It also binding with this antithrombin 3. It also binding with the antithrombin 3, but it is the inactivate the factor 10A. There is no effect on the thrombin, or very poorly inactivate the thrombin, okay. So mainly it is the anticoagulant effect, it is due to the factor 10A. Okay, so it's a selective inhibit the factor 10A and very little effect on the factor 2A, means thrombin, okay. So it is a low molecular weight heparin. And let's see the advantages of the low molecular weight heparin over the heparin, okay. So if we are giving the subcutaneous route, then there is a bioavailability, it is a very less with this heparin, but with this low molecular weight heparin, it is a more. It is also the longer duration of action, so T-half is also the more, okay. There is no need of the measuring of the APTT and clotting time, okay. There is no prolongation of this APTT, no hospitalization needed. It also given in the OPD, okay, in the daycare facility or in the OPD, outpatient department. There is a because this it is a subcutaneous route. Okay, this low molecular weight heparin, it is a used by the subcutaneous route. Okay, no need of the monitoring. Okay, and longer duration of action. So if we want to give for the deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism prevention, particularly for the prevention purpose, then only the 1 dose or 2 dose in a day, 1 dose or 2 dose in a day, it is needed, and it is given by the subcutaneous route. Okay, so it is not need of the hospitalization. Okay, no need of the hospitalization. Okay, less bleeding and less chances of the osteoporosis. No heparin induced thrombocytopenia, which is seen with the heparin more. Okay, it is also the cross sensitivity with this low molecular weight heparin, but it is not seen more with this low molecular weight heparin. Okay, and their effect is not fully reversed by the protamine, which is heparin heparin antagonist or reversal of the action of the heparin with this we seen with the protamine, but this protamine, it is not fully reverse the effect of the low molecular weight heparin. Try to remember this thing. Okay, try to remember this thing. It is a not fully reverse. Okay, uses, therapeutic uses is the same. It is a prevention of the deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. Okay, it also the useful for the treatment of the established thrombosis in the deep vein, also in the unstable angina. Okay, also we use the for the patency of the shunt. Okay, so it is useful in the dialysis patient also, and but it is less effective in the preventing the catheter thrombosis, particularly for the cardiopulmonary bypass surgery. So in this type of the surgery, we particularly useful the uses the drug the heparin. Okay, then another drug, it is a fondaparinux. Okay, fondaparinux, it is a binding with the antithrombin 3 with the high affinity to the selective inactivate the factor 10A. Okay, without binding to the thrombin factor 2A. Okay, so it is the factor 10A inhibitor. Okay, so it is a prophylaxis of the patient undergoing the hip and knee surgery and therapy of the pulmonary embolism. Same therapeutic use, and it is less likely to cause the thrombocytopenia compared to the even with the low molecular weight heparin. Okay, so if patient having the heparin induced thrombocytopenia, so we are not using the low molecular weight heparin. अगर हमको देनी है, then we are giving the fondaparinux. Okay, in fondaparinux also not require the laboratory monitoring. Dose is the 5 to 10 milligram subcutaneously once in a day. Okay, so see here the fondaparinux, it is a binding with the antithrombin 3, and this antithrombin 3 is a very less saccharides. Okay, and sufficient to inactivate the factor 10A, but it is not effect on the thrombin. There is no effect on the thrombin with this fondaparinux. Okay, then other drugs, it is a parenteral thrombin inhibitor. Okay, direct thrombin inhibitor or parenteral thrombin inhibitor. So this, it is a directly binding with this thrombin. Okay, directly binding with this thrombin. There is no need of the antithrombin. Okay, this binding like this. See here, lepirudin. Okay, lepirudin, it is a binding with this thrombin on the catalytic site also and substrate recognition site also. Okay, so this lepirudin is the bind with this thrombin on both sides. Also this argatroban, it is a binding with this catalytic site only. Okay, and there is a C here, there is a heparin site. Okay, so this heparin site is a spare for the heparin purpose. Okay, and it is a binding directly with the thrombin, not an antithrombin 3 or factor 10A. So it is no effect. There is no effect on the factor 10A, only the inhibition of the thrombin occurs. So it's a direct thrombin inhibitor, and in direct thrombin inhibitor, parenteral thrombin inhibitor, we learn about the lepirudin and other drug argatroban also. Okay, so parental thrombin inhibitor lepirudin, it is intravenously useful and it is useful in heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Then we are giving this lepirudin. It is monitored by the APTT, activated partial thromboplastin time, and again there is a chances of the hematuria and there is an increase of the transaminase with this lepirudin. Okay, no antidote it is available for this lepirudin, and it is the drug of choice if patient having the liver disease. Okay, then other drug, it is a bivalirudin. Okay, and it is a mainly the rapid onset and duration is a very short, so it is useful in the percutaneous coronary angioplasty. Okay, during this angioplasty procedure, it is a shorter action and rapid onset, so we use this bivalirudin IV 0.1 milligram per kilogram to 0.25 milligram per kilogram per hour. This bivalirudin, it is a useful, it is a direct thrombin inhibitor. Then denaperoid, it is a mixture of the heparin sulfate, dermatan sulfate and chondroitin sulfate. Okay, and it is useful in the, again same, there is a deep vein thrombosis and hip replacement surgery, prevention in the thrombus formation. Heparin induced thrombocytopenia है, then we are using this drug. Heparin induced thrombocytopenia, we are using this drug. It is a denaperoid and it is a T-half is a 24 hour. It is a longer T-half 24 hour. It is useful in the heparin induced thrombocytopenia, denaperoid. Okay, it is inhibit the activation of the factor 10A and ultimately inhibit the thrombin generation. Okay, it is a factor 10A inhibit करता है denaperoid and inhibit the thrombin generation. Then again it is a argatroban. It is also the intravenous, useful in the intravenously in the heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, and its clearance is not affected in the renal disease. So this argatroban, it is the useful in the renal disease. Okay, and there is a APDT, it also monitoring in this argatroban and it is a useful in the renal disease. Okay, so try to remember this thing. If there is a renal disease, then there is the argatroban. Then droterogin alpha, it is a human recombinant protein C. So there is a deficiency of the protein C, then we give this drug droterogin alpha also, and it is inhibited the factor 5 and factor 8A. Okay, so this droterogin alpha, it also useful in the particular organ dysfunction. Okay, there is a sepsis. If there is a sepsis and multi-organ failure, okay, due to the sepsis, then we are using this droterogin alpha, and it is a human recombinant protein C. Try to remember for the MCQ purpose also. Okay, human recombinant protein C, then there is a droterogin alpha. Okay, so these are the references. Most of the figure it is taken from the Golan book. Okay, so thank you.